Hi, welcome to 10 Minute Violin. We're so glad to have you join us here today. I'm Miguel Ramirez, and this is the live stream training session for the 10-minute practice video titled Violin Left Hand Mechanics. I want to make sure everyone has a good understanding of our format here at 10 Minute Violin. First of all, I want to clarify that this session here is not the 10-minute practice video itself. This is the training session where we'll explain in detail how to best approach the material presented in our Violin Left Hand Mechanics 10-minute practice video. It's important to watch this training session at least once before following along with the 10-minute practice video so you can optimize your time spent with it. There will also be a question and answer time at the end of this training session for those of you who are tuning in live. And the separate 10-minute practice video will be available on our YouTube channel later this evening. An easy way to think about it is if you view this live stream training session as your lecture or your class and the separate 10-minute practice video as your lab or your homework. At this time, I'd like to introduce my brother and co-host of 10-Minute Violin, John Ramirez.
Hello. I finally got my video and my sound working. We want to say hello to everybody, but we haven't quite gotten everybody online right now. So I'm going to pass you over to Miguel.
All right, and in this training session, we'll be explaining and training the movements of the left hand fingers and arm. These movements are necessary for playing the different notes on the violin with the proper technique and ease. Finally, we hope this information will be valuable for you no matter what level you're at the violin, and it will also be helpful for those of you, hopefully, who are viola students as well. So I'd like to take a moment to say hi to those in the chat room if we have any of those. Otherwise, we'll check in with them later.
We do have one person.
Okay. So it looks like we have Calvin joining us from Livingston, New Jersey. Hi, Calvin. Thanks again for joining us today.
And that's all we have.
And that's it for right now. Okay. All right. So maybe we could say hi to some of the rest of you later. You can submit your questions in the chat at any time during the training session, and we'll get to as many as we can after we finish covering all the material. Since there's about a 15-second delay between broadcasting live in our studio and when you receive it at home, try to submit your questions before the end of the individual finger slides section of the training to make sure that we see them. Last few things before we dive into the material. Follow the links below if you'd like to book an online private lesson with me or John. And if you find our content helpful, I'd like to remind you to subscribe, hit the bell to be notified every time we release a new video, and like and share it with your friends. Okay, so the first exercise we'll do is called elbow swings. Get the violin here. It's the first exercise you'll see on the practice video this week. And so what we're going to do is we're going to start with our previous exercise from last week, pronate, supinate, and bend with the violin. So remember, with that we have the fingers underneath on the back of the instrument, the thumb on the top of the instrument, supporting it there. And then we do our pronate, supinate, and bend, making sure that the thumb is on the bottom of the neck right there, just like that. And then the fingers, since we did that supination, are in line with the strings. So we're going to use this exercise here to get in position for a lot of the other exercises today, having that right hand supporting with the fingers underneath the instrument. And also our chin is not going to be contacting the chin rest, or the jaw, or any part of the head is not going to be contacting the chin rest for any of the exercises in this week's practice video. We can turn the head over. Remember, on that atlanto-occipital joint, we'll turn the head toward the violin, and that's fine. So we can see what we're doing with the fingers. But we're not gonna knot it down this week. Okay. So the last point I'd like to do, to talk about before going into the actual exercise, is that when we have our hand in position like this, left hand, I'm not going to move the wrist. So the wrist is going to stay in line with the hand and the forearm. So basically we're going to have a straight line here. Now, I don't want you to confuse that. We're not going to stiffen the wrist to keep it in that position. We're just simply going to have it in that position and not really move it. And so the way that the elbow swings are going to work, it's going to be like a seesaw motion, like this. And so, like the elbow, if you remember when we worked on the bowing on the right hand, the elbow is leading that motion up and down. So in a similar way, it's going to be leading the motion here. And if you notice, like on the right hand, when we led the motion up and down with the elbow, the wrist didn't change. So it wasn't kind of going like this. You know, it was all in line. So we're going to do the same thing here. And so as the elbow swings back and forth like this, that thumb will kind of be flexible. I mean, not flexible, but it's going to move along the bottom. It's going to basically roll along the bottom of the neck. So again, we don't want that thumb to be like doing any motions on its own. Oops. So I don't want to be like actively trying to do anything with it, but I just want it to, and yeah, it should be flexible, but I don't want it to be like just moving, doing its own motions. So it's just kind of rolling on the bottom of the neck there. All right, and so what do I mean by seesaw? Okay, so the seesaw like always has a fulcrum, right, on both sides. So if this violin were a seesaw, this side would go up and the scroll goes down. The scroll goes down and then the chin rest side goes up. Okay, so where's the fulcrum when we do a seesaw here with the left arm? The elbow swings forward and the fulcrum is about right here. So it's not even, you basically have like your fingers on one side and the thumb and the wrist and the elbow and everything on the other side. But still the same concept applies. So if the elbow goes forward, and I can show you maybe from this angle here, as the elbow goes forward this way, the fingers go back towards my back. And as the elbow comes back towards my back, the fingers go forward. And this is only going to work if you keep your wrist in line with the forearm. Okay, and maybe we could get that top camera so I can show you again what's going on here. So as you can see that elbow kind of peeking out there, and the fingers are kind of closer to the E string. I mean, they're like way over because I'm exaggerating the motion. And then as we go over this way, the elbow comes forward and the fingers go back towards the G string. All right, so that is our elbow swings exercise. The next exercise on the video is going to be pencil slide and bend. And so for this exercise, we'll put the violin down and we'll just get a pencil. And actually, before we start the exercise, I want to show you a little diagram here. And I don't know, do we have that thicker line? Oh, right, good.
Yeah, I made the thicker line.
Woohoo. Forget how to erase this. There you go. Still learning this. So here's a diagram of the bones of the human hand and wrist. And I want to make a point here that we can find all the joints of the fingers. And we're going to look at the the fingers first. Let's start with the pinky. We see the first joint is right there where the wrist is. The second joint is there where the knuckle is. Then there's the third and the fourth. So there's 4 joints for each finger. We could circle them for all the fingers if we wanted to. I could do the next one. Here's the ring finger. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And as you can see again, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 there. Now how many are on the thumb? It's different, right? So there's 1 here, 2, where's like the knuckle, so the base or the wrist one, the knuckle, and then the third one. So there's only 3 on the thumb. So I know that many of you already know this, but it's good to point it out because it will have relevance for what we're going to be talking about. Okay, so then with that, I'd like to also kind of trace, and we'll do this on our actual hands, but I want to do this on the diagram first. We're going to kind of trace where the joints line up. Now, if we had those lines on the inside of our fingers, the line would go right there for that joint, and the line would correspond again on the underside of this joint here. And you know those lines on the underside of your fingers. Now, I'll show you where the knuckle joint, that's close to the base of the finger, I should say, not where the knuckle joint is. On the finger, that line is right here. So notice how these other 2 lines correspond to the underside of each joint here, these 2 joints in the finger, but the line that you have in the base of your finger, does that correspond to the knuckle joint? And as you can see from this diagram here, this diagram is not wrong. This diagram is actually right. That line does not correspond with the joint, does it? It's in the middle of the bone. I mean, not exactly in the middle, but it's within the actual bone, right? And you can see that on the middle finger as well here. See where that base of the finger is? It's not on the underside of the joint. Same thing here and here. So we want to make sure that we're not confusing the function of the lines of the top 2 joints with this line here that's closer to the knuckle. So you can't bend from this one. You can from these 2 here. From these ones. Okay? So where can you bend? There is another line on your hand that goes straight across here, and that's the one that lines up with the knuckles. I kind of overdid that, and I kind of put it in the wrong place. Let me see if I can erase the bottom part of that. Again, still kind of getting used to this. So there is one that goes all the way across the palm of your hand, and if you notice that those knuckle joints are within the palm of the hand. Okay, so I think that's the main thing that I wanted to show you on the diagram. So we'll go back to using the pencil, and we'll use this top camera here. And so using the eraser side of the pencil, so you don't poke your hand. We'll trace the joint here. See this line here? Try to get that better place here. We'll trace that to the other side, and again you can see how it lines up with that bendable joint there. Same thing with this one here. If you notice, you could bend around that one, and that lines up with this joint there. But here's that other line that's a little bit deceiving. We can't bend here. No matter how hard I try, I can't bend right there. And so I don't want to try that. And if we look and we follow it along to the other side, it's not where the knuckle is. The knuckle is over here. So the base of the finger is not the knuckle. But where is the line that does correspond? It's right here. This is the one that I was trying to draw for you on the illustration. It's right here. So we know these, these three lines here in our hand kind of looks like an M or something like that. This top one that's closest to the fingers is the one that corresponds, if we follow that along the other side, corresponds now to the knuckles. You see the knuckles are there if I bend them, and then that corresponds again to that top line here. So we're just going to slide the pencil across this top line here to kind of get used to knowing where the knuckles are on the inside of the hand, on the palm of the hand. And after we kind of get a good idea of that, we'll simply bend from the knuckles. And we're going to be bending over this line. And you can see how that corresponds to the knuckles. If we tried to put it here, we can't bend anything. I mean, we could bend the top ones here, but we can't bend the knuckles. So you don't want to be playing violin like this. And if you're thinking you were trying to bend here, it's going to be impossible. You're going to play like this. And we don't want to just play like that because that's restrictive. We want to bend from here and then be able to play with all the whole finger. Okay? So so that's the explanation of that exercise. There's one more part to that exercise, and that's tracing on the thumb. We looked at the diagram where the joint, the first joint of the thumb is. They're connected to the wrist. Again, it has three joint, not four like the other ones, like the other fingers. So let's kind of explore where that is, and we'll trace this curved line here. This curved line. I don't know how well it shows up on the camera, but we all know where how that line is right here. And then we'll place the pencil about right here, and we'll practice just bending the thumb from all three joints. Not just, again, the one joint really here, but from all three joints. And then we can kind of bring it over to the pinky too. And that gives the thumb a lot of freedom. Now we might have included this also with the right hand too. We didn't include this with the bow, but it could be a good exercise to do also on your right hand, because you do end up using the same joints on your right hand as well. Okay, and that's pretty much the gist of that exercise. It's going to be very quick on the video, but this is the long explanation to really make sure that this sinks in. All right, so then the next one, we're going to go back with the violin in position, and this one's called four finger taps. So again, we're going to do the same exercise here: pronate, supinate, and bend, and have the pad of the thumb underneath the instrument there. And fingers are in line with the strings here because we did that supination. And if you can see that from the top camera, see my fingers are in line with the strings. And then we're going to actually get them in line specifically with the E string here. So above that E string. Now don't worry too much about how the fingers are separated. I'm not worried about that right now. If you've been playing for a while, you might have a position a finger pattern that you like to use most naturally. But right now, if you haven't been playing, just have your fingers in just a comfortable, natural separation. Don't push them together, and don't be separating them like this. Just have them natural, and you'll notice that they'll also curve a little bit. And so we want that. And so we're going to tap down now from the knuckles, and remember where that knuckle is bending from. Remember, we just went over that in the pencil slide and bend. So we want to tap the fingers on the E string width coming from the knuckles. And when we tap down, we don't want to tap down like super hard. We just want to tap down softly. And it's just a tap. We're going to kind of propel the fingers quickly down, tap quickly down, but we don't want to press hard. We just want to tap them nice and lightly. Okay, so now that was the E string. And now we're going to move the fingers to the next string, the A string, by the elbow swing movement. So we talked about how to do that. Now we're going to actually apply that. I'm going to swing the elbow forward slightly, and that'll bring my fingers over the A string. So that's where it was before, and now we're going to do a little movement to get the fingers over the A string, and again tap them down. So they're somewhat in line with these tapes that I have here on this violin. Again, if you have them not in line with the tapes, I don't care. And you may not have tapes, or you may have tapes. That's not the point. I just want you in line with the A string tapping, okay? So then from there, we're going to move the elbow forward a little bit more, and the fingers will be now in line with the D string. Again, look at them, they're all curved. The other thing is we want them to be mostly on the string that they're on, and try to really not have them be touching the other strings. If the pads of the fingers are kind of touching the other strings, you know that they're not quite curved, or that your wrist is too low, or your elbow's too far back like this. That's why the elbow needs to be forward this way for the D string. Sure, I could contact the D strings with the tips of the finger this way, but if you notice those fingers, maybe we could do camera 2 for this, they're all flat and they're contacting the other strings. But when I have the elbow swung forward, now the A and the E string, they're free to ring while my fingers are touching the D string. Okay, we'll swing forward again for the G string and do the same tapping exercise there. Okay, so that's how you start to get those elbow swings actually active in your playing. And we'll continue using those for the next exercises. So the next one's going to be called position taps. Same thing, pronate, supinate, bend, fingers in line with the strings. And let me just explain. I'm sorry, no, I'm thinking about a different exercise here. We're going to explain the low position, middle position, high position. That's what I need to tell you. So what we're going to do is we're going to tap, just like we did before on the E string. But then as we go, we're going to move the forearm forward. And so the way we do this is by bending from the elbow. We just close that elbow, and we move the elbow forward and also swing it. So you're going to use your elbow swings not only just to change strings, but also to change the position. So we're back in a low position right here, which means the hand is like mostly on the neck of the instrument. And now we're going to go swing it forward to the middle position where the hand is closer to the body of the instrument. And the thumb is still going to be pretty much underneath the neck. But then as we go to the high position, this thumb is going to kind of go around here, around the neck this way, and then the hand will be over the body of the instrument. So this is really important, because if you try to keep your thumb here and go up, you're going to be straining here. We need to allow this thumb to keep relaxed, but to come to the side here. And if we notice, if we look at the back of this neck here, we see that it not only has this nice curve here on the neck, but it's also curved all the way down to the base of the neck. Here you see this little arch right there, and also to the side on each side here. So this is nice and sloped here, almost like a ramp or something, so it's all sloped and curved. And so we want to just allow the thumb to follow naturally that curve. That makes sense because our thumb is rounded, and so this is rounded as well here. Okay, so I'll show you how we do this. So we're on the fingers in line with the E string, low position here, tapping. And then we're going to swing forward to the middle position a little bit here. Thumb still on the bottom of the neck. Tap there. And now we swing forward even more, and then the thumb goes to the side of the neck there. And we tap, again, fingers in line with the E string. All right, so now we swing back to the low position, fingers still in line with the E string. And so we're swinging that elbow back. And now we swing it forward again, not to change position, but to change strings to the A string. So we have two different reasons here that we're swinging the elbow. So here's the A string, low position. Swing forward for the middle position, thumb still on the bottom of the neck. And then thumb goes to the side of the neck for the high position there. We come back to the low position, we swing back for the low position on the A string, and then swing forward slightly for the D string. Same thing here. Swing forward, and then swing forward again. Again, the thumb. Oopsies. That's all right. Thumb, I was going to say just the thumb on the side, more towards the side. That little curve there. Okay. Same thing for the G string. We swing back for the low position on the D string, and then again swing forward for the G string, low position, swing forward again slightly for the middle position, and then swing forward again for the high position. And remember that in all of these positions and in every string, you want to make sure the fingers are curved and only touching the strings. The fingers should only be contacting the strings that you're actually using. So if it's on the D string, the fingers really shouldn't be touching the A string as much as possible. Try to really focus those fingertips on one string at a time. All right. I think that's pretty much it for the position taps exercise. Let's go on to the next one. The next one's called individual taps. And we'll, again, have that same position as before. And you do the pronate, supinate, bend. We're not going to go through that every time on the video. It's just going to go to this position. But if you need to, you can always do that, redo that exercise, before each exercise if you'd like. You can pause the video. Again, here it's important to aim to keep all the fingers in line above the string as much as possible while tapping the individual fingers. And so if I can show you from the top camera here, where if I'm starting on the E string, I have my fingers as much in line over those strings as possible, and then I'm going to tap just individual fingers instead of all four of them. So I'm going to tap the first finger, and I try to keep those other three fingers, see, in line. And I try not to move the other fingers too much either. I'm not doing this, but also be careful as you try not to move them too much, try not to stiffen them either, because these fingers are connected with tendons, so I can't help but move the fingers a little bit, but we want to focus the motion on just the individual finger. Also, keep the wrist straight still, in line with the forearm. Again, without stiffening it and without locking it, but just keeping it stable and straight. We're going to do the second finger, same thing, second finger taps, while keeping the other fingers as much in line with the string as possible. Third finger, the same thing. And fourth finger, same thing. Now with the fourth finger, you can allow the wrist joint of the fourth finger to propel the hand bone to move forward, and that gives the finger, it allows it to have extra length or extra range to it. So with the fourth finger, this part here that's in the hand, this bone right here is moving from the wrist joint a little bit to give that finger some extra length. If you try to keep that back, then you have to really stretch that fourth finger. So let it come forward. All right, so and then the same thing as we do that on the E string, then we swing the elbow forward and do the same thing on the A string. But let me re-emphasize one more time, if we can show this from the top camera. See how I'm on the A string here, and if I'm tapping my first finger, my fourth finger isn't way over here. And if we can show from camera 2, notice it's not also underneath, right? It's not underneath the string, so I don't want to be doing this. If we're playing like this, that's a lot of work to take. If we want to play the fourth finger, we have to take the fourth finger out of its case, kind of, you know, and then bring it over and do this. And if you're doing that and you're wondering, why can't I play as fast as I'd like to play? Well, that's probably why. But if you keep your fingers over, then that allows you to play with the speed that you want. Okay, so we're going to do that on every string, individual taps, and just swinging the elbow for each different string as we did before. The next exercise is called add-on taps. So this one's just like the individual taps, but this time we'll add each finger in combination with the last one. So we're going to start again, same position as before, and we're going to keep the fingers in line above each string as much as possible, same thing, and we're going to just tap 1, so on the E string 1, and then we're going to add 2. So now we have 1 and 2. And then we're going to add 3, 1, 2, and 3, until we get back to 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And this is just like our exercise from before. Swing the elbow forward, do it on the A string, forward again, do it on the D, and then the G. So you're just adding the fingers. So that's pretty straightforward. I don't think we need to take too much time to explain that one. The next exercise that you'll see on the practice video is left hand pizzicato. So again, we're starting with the same position as before. Right hand supporting the instrument with fingers underneath. Again, you can start it out with pronate, supinate, bend, fingers in line with the strings. This time they're going to be curved and now softly pressing down the strings towards the fingerboard. I want to emphasize that they're softly pressing down towards the fingerboard. I'm not like squeezing them down. I'm just letting them have a little bit of pressure, and I should feel the fingerboard on the tips of my finger a little bit more now than just the strings. Okay, and starting with the pinky, we're going to pull each finger to the side and a little bit up. And then we're going to go the next finger to the side and up. Next finger, side and up. Side and up. So now we don't need to bring it too far up. So let me show you here. See, it's going a little bit above the level of the string, but it's not going way up here. So like that. And then we're going to swing forward again for the A string. Same process. Pull them softly, like that. Swing forward for the D string. Notice I'm not yanking the strings. This should be nice and just soft. Swing forward for the G string. Same thing here. All right. So I think that's pretty much it. I can't emphasize enough, though, to use soft pressure. You shouldn't feel a lot of tension, and you shouldn't feel any tension. You shouldn't feel too much like the strings are making too much of indentation in your fingers. We're keeping it nice and soft. Remember to always swing the elbow forward to change the lower strings, like I already talked about. And I think that's pretty much it for that exercise. The next, we have a couple more. So the next one's 4-finger slides is what we call it. We're going to start this one. Again, we'll have the position like before, with the chin off the chin rest and supporting it here. This time we could start by pronate, supinate, bend, but this time we're going to allow that arm to be in a little less supine position, and then the fingers are going to have a little more natural feeling to them. And so the first finger, or the index finger, the first finger is going to be on the G string. We're going to just let it rest curved and just let it really lightly rest on the string. Second finger is going to be curved and resting slightly on the D string. Third finger, or the ring finger, is going to be on the A string, and then the pinky, or the fourth finger, is going to be resting on the E string. And so you have one finger per string in a more natural way, and it's a little less supine forearm. The fingertips should be the only things that are touching the strings, not the rest of the fingers. If they are, then your fingers are going to be too flat, like this. So you want them curved above, like that. And so then what we're going to do is, from that point, we're going to straighten and bend the fingers very lightly, sliding on the strings like this. And don't worry if it stays perfectly in line with the strings. I mean, your hand is going to be in the, like, just that general place. G string, D string, A string, and E string. But don't fixate too much on keeping the fingertips exactly, in the same place. They're going to move. And as you straighten it out, the fingertips will actually not touch the strings anymore, and the pad will, like this. So in this position, it's okay to have the rest of the fingers touching the strings. But when you come back to this more contracted or bent shape, you don't want the other parts of the fingers touching the strings. Okay, and as we do this, I want to emphasize again, notice that the wrist is not moving, right? That's staying just, it's moving, but it's not like bending and straightening like this. It's just kind of following the natural movement of the fingers. And then also, if you notice that the fingers are doing the sliding and my elbow or my forearm is not moving the fingers back and forth. So that's the way to slide, but notice that my fingers don't change position. So we want to stay with this exactly like this, and just simply straighten and bend these fingers with a light touch. Okay? And then that brings us to the last exercise, and that's called individual finger slides. And so that's the same concept as the last one, except now just with one finger at a time. This one, we definitely should start with the pronate, supinate, bend, fingers in line with the strings. A little more supine here because we're going to be one string at a time. So we're back to the E string first, and the non-sliding fingers should be above each string, as much in line with the string as possible. Just that's like a theme of today, right? So we're going to extend and contract the first finger like that. Again, keeping those other fingers as much as possible in line with the string. Second finger, same thing. So I'm lifting up the first finger. Third finger. Straighten and bend. And we're not pressing. The finger shouldn't really feel like it's contacting the fingerboard at all, just the string. And then the fourth finger. So it's really hard to keep the fingers exactly in line with the strings, but that's what you're aiming for. Especially with this one, it's really easy to kind of let them go out, and that's okay. I'm going to do the same thing with the A string. So we bring the elbow forward a little bit, individual slides, first, second. From the camera angle from this one, you can really see the third finger, especially, and the fourth finger. You can see the different shapes of those. So you want to go from a straight to a bent or a boxed finger. And we just go through all the strings that way, and again, making sure that the elbow is swinging properly for each one of those. Okay, and I think that pretty much concludes everything for today. let's go back to John and see if there's any questions about any of the content.
Well, looks like we do have a question.
Okay.
I'll pass it over to you. Oops. Sorry. There.
Do those
Wrong
things,
one.
but
I need more hands.
that's,
All right. Can you see it or not? No? Wait, hold on.
no, I can't.
Give me a second
see
here.
the
I'm trying to figure out what I did here. Okay, well, I'll just tell you.
It's okay.
So the question is, how far out should the elbow swing when trying to play the lower strings?
Oh, okay. That's a good question. I think the best way to think about that is, and thanks for the question. Who gave that question?
That was from Chloe.
Chloe?
Yeah, this one says Chloe.
Chloe? Okay. Well, again, thanks for joining us, Chloe. And so to answer...
Sorry, Calvin.
Calvin. Okay, Calvin. So hi again, Calvin, and I'll try to answer your question here. That's a great question. So you're asking for like the low string, the G string, or if it was a viola, it would be the C string. The lowest string, the furthest to the left. How far does the elbow need to go forward? Now, that will depend also on the exact placement. That's going to be different for every person because everyone has maybe a long different lengths of forearms, right? So so if you have a longer forearm, then the elbow is going to come forward more because the longer it is, the more distance it covers. If you have shorter forearm, that's going to go it's going to look a little bit less, right? But I think the main point here to find out where it should be is one, that should go forward. Two, it should go forward enough to where the fingers can contact just the low string and curve over the other three strings without contacting those strings. Okay? So say if I okay, I'm going to swing my elbow forward. I'm going to swing it not forward maybe as much as I did just now. And now, if we look maybe from the top camera here, I don't know how it'll look, but yeah, see, I don't know if it's going to really be clear, but I can feel on the bottom of these fingers here, I can feel the D string, or the next string over. On a viola, it would be the G string. I can feel that on the bottoms of those fingers. So the fingertips are on the G string, but then I feel them on the D string. Okay? So what I need to do, if I bring the elbow forward more, and I just let the fingers and the wrist stay in one place, then now the fingers have lifted off that D string, and I can actually play that D string. I'll bring my elbow back again, and I'll play that D string. Do you hear it ringing? It's stopped by the pads of my fingers. So I'm going to bring the elbow forward one more time. I can play that D string there. So I swing it back again one more time. Even just a little bit. See that? Now I can play it. Can't play it. Now I can play it. Now, do I need to go beyond that? Does that make it play any better? No, so I don't need to go beyond that. I just need to go enough to where the fingers can clear the string that's higher. Hopefully that makes sense, and hopefully that's helpful. So I think that's a good gauge for everybody. Great question. I like that a lot. Do we have any other questions?
We don't have any more.
All right.
That should be it right there.
Yeah, that was good. So good training session today. We'll go ahead and wrap up. Again, follow the links below if you'd like to book an online private lesson with me or John. And if you find our content helpful, I'd like to remind you to, we can get that back up there, subscribe, hit the bell to be notified every time we release a new video, and then like and share it with your friends. This training session and practice video concludes our series on the basics of the left hand. Join us next time as we begin a series on ear training. And then don't forget to follow up daily with the Violin Left Hand Mechanics 10-minute practice video. And remember to press play every day. Goodbye for now.